We are live. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Hi, Lori. Good. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. So, today we're going to talk about a really interesting part of the immune system that a lot of people probably have never heard of, or if they did, they just kind of very quickly eyes glaze over and go, "What is that?" And so, I think it's an important thing to speak about the complement system. But before we get going down that track of explaining what it is and why it's important, can you share your story? Maybe with so people who aren't familiar with your story around lupus?
Yeah, thank you. I recently wrote an article on the complement system, and I was talking to you ahead of time and said, this isn't a lot of people aren't even going to know what this is or if it pertains to them. But I decided to write it because it's something that I had studied so deeply. And the reason I had is I have an autoimmune disease, lupus, and it's a connective tissue. So anyone who has connective tissue type autoimmune, so like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, mixed connective tissue, Sjogren's, scleroderma, these are all kind of in that family. And as part of the immune system, or I guess for into my own story, I was diagnosed back when I was in my mid 30s, and so a while ago now. And I had joint pains initially. I had pains with breathing. I had pains all over my body, kidney involvement, and those pains got better. But even when I got better, when my joint pains improved, my immune system was off. And so I
Mm.
had numbers that were abnormal for a long time. And so that took a little detective work and figuring out what was going on, why was the immune system still active, and figuring out how to calm it down. And so that's what today we're going to talk about. Like, luckily, it has calmed down. So that's the good news. We can all do this. It's just each person is different and you got to figure it out. So that's what today we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Perfect. So, yours was low, and so maybe we can start with understanding just the basic nuance of complements when you're measuring it. What does that actually mean?
Yeah. So when we think of the immune system, you think of stuff like the innate immune system, which is the rapid acting immune system, and then the slower acting, which is like making antibodies and bringing in the army. So you've got the rapid and the slower acting, right? So I always think of that, and so. And as part of that, you think of things like if your inflammation is elevated, your rapid acting, you see your CRP go up. That's a marker of inflammation that the immune system is revved up. But more than that, there's more than that to check. And what happens is people may get a normal CRP or a mildly elevated and not really know what to do with that or what to do next. Or they're having weird symptoms. Maybe they're having just fatigue or rashes or joint pains, and the labs, the CRP is really pretty normal, and you don't know where to go. And there's more to the immune system that you can test and measure. And that's where the complement system comes in. So the complement system is part of the innate immune system. It's the rapid acting immune system. It's the part that recognizes. So if you're exposed, like right now, for example, I was at jury duty this past Tuesday. I was sitting in the courtroom while they're waiting to select their people. And, we're all packed in, which is fine. I don't mind. But the person right next to me was coughing and coughing and coughing. And I was like, oh boy, there goes my immune system. So probably I breathed in some of that. Just chances are it's going to happen. And so now I have virus inside my body. And what that means is my immune system, my innate immune system, without me even knowing it, is going to rev up. And one of the things that happens is complement system, which is part of the immune system. And it is going to recognize, oh, these are foreign intruders. It's going to recognize these carbohydrate proteins on the virus that's now I'm exposed to. It's going to bind to it. And there's different types. One of them will bind to it and help to eliminate it. And the other one will help to weaken it. So these complement are very active. And thankfully, I have a good working complement system, and it's going to bind to these viruses without me ever knowing and help get rid of it. So I haven't gotten sick, and hopefully I won't, because my immune system is working behind the scenes, and complement is how that works. So it's part of us. It's working all the time. When you're not exposed to viruses or invaders, it's really just kind of humming along, just hanging out, waiting for exposures. But I feel like we're exposed kind of all the time in life. So the complement is there to quickly help us take care of that. So that's why it's evolved.
So, the important thing to understand here is that it gets low when it's being used up. right? It's not that the system can't make it, it's that it actually is being used up. So it's kind of a negative feedback in the sense, or a counterintuitive assumption. And then Marge was asking CRP, does that mean C reactive protein? Yeah.
Yes, sorry, Marge. Yeah, C reactive protein, exactly.
Okay, perfect. And so with your situation, can we talk about like the different, maybe the most common types of the
Yeah.
complement system that we would be measuring?
And so, yeah, so there's a breakdown of it. There's a lot of different complement particles. Actually, what they are, unlike CRP, C reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker made in the liver in response to inflammation, complement are proteins that we have that actually are out there to help the immune system, that are part of the functioning immune system. And so, the biggest ones we think of are C3 and C4, but then there's also subpart particles. So it gets really advanced: C3A, C4A, there's C5. So there's a whole bunch of them, but the most typically checked ones are C3 and C4. And the other thing that happens, so I explained how the complement happens normal, how that the normal function of it. But what can happen is it can become where it goes into overdrive and it's overly consumed. And that's where, so say it can actually falsely bind to tissues or even certain types of food accidentally, because these carbohydrate are recognizing something else, not just the viruses. And that's where it can start to be consumed when there's an inflammatory process going on, or even a very bad viral process going on. But mostly we think of it with inflammatory process, it starts to get consumed. So you may measure a low complement, but that's a sign that your complement's being consumed and their immune system is actually revved up and overactive.
Hmm. And so what would be indicators of an immune system that's overactive or revved up? Like what are the typical things people could be looking for?
Yeah, so if you're having these weird symptoms, like I explained again, that we can't explain, so like fatigue or joint pains, rashes, kidney disease, like kind of worsening kidney function. These are times that I start thinking right away, let's check someone's complement. I want to make sure it's not being overconsumed. I'm looking to make sure it's in the normal range, not the low range. And anyone with an autoimmune, especially one of these connective tissue ones, complement is something that's checked periodically, like however many times a year you're checking in with your doctor. And the reason is because you're making sure that it's not, your immune system is calm and in a calm state. When it's not in a calm state, the complement is low. So it could be one of the first signs that you'll see is that complement is low.
I see. Okay, perfect. So when someone is diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, or let's say that they're concerned that they might have something going on, because let's say they've been having these strange symptoms, they go to their doctor, the doctor's like, hey, all your labs are fine, you're just stressed, you're just whatever, get more rest, whatever. But their CRP is normal, but they're feeling inflamed, they're having joint discomfort. Would that be a space where you would actually check the complement?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the time that I would recommend checking it. So, and I definitely don't check this on everyone. People do a checkup with me. There's no reason to check it, but it's the people that are having these ongoing symptoms that are kind of weird. We can't yet figure it out. We're not sure what's going on. Then I would love to check that complement and make sure it's okay. And certainly with people with very active autoimmune that we're working on changing diets, changing lifestyle, maybe they're on some medications that we're looking to calm it down, because sometimes people will feel better, but they still have low complement. So we know their immune system is still revved up. They're not yet in a stable place. So we need to keep an eye on it. So yeah, that's the exact time.
How long does it take, or how long did it take you to get your complement to be normalized?
Normally people normalize pretty fast. For me, I think my triggers were food that I was eating. And so because I kept pursuing it and eating those foods, it would often go low. So it was low for, mine was low for many years until I started to dive into the research and realize why was it lowering? Why was it low? And
Mm,
my rheumatologist had said maybe it's genetic. Some people just have low complement. And that is true. It is possible people can be born with low complement, but it's extremely rare. And I felt like I'm not sure I'm willing to go there yet. So I hadn't done a genetic test that showed it. So I just kept pushing to see if that wasn't true. And it turned
interesting.
out it wasn't.
So individuals who have a genetically low complement, are they going to have more illness, or would they be more likely to struggle with, infections or some other things? Do they stand out differently from others who have a competent immune system?
Yeah, so when your complement is low, you have a very active immune system at this point, and so autoimmune things are getting worse. You might be getting organ damage at that point, or you might have worse joint pains, or so it is a sign that your immune system is revved up, and that's a sort of a dangerous time if it stays like that for a long time, because that's when the feeling of your blood vessels are at risk. Like everything is sort of at risk during that state. So that is the heightened inflammatory state that, and again, you can calm it down. We know what to do to calm it down. So if you do notice that between, diet, lifestyle, medications, all of this, you can start to improve it and get your immune system quieted down
So
and calm.
if you were born though, a genetic saying you can't make it because you're genetically predisposition, do those individuals, are they sicker than the rest of us? Do they get issues more recurring?
Yeah, they can't it depends how low it is. So, of course,
Mm,
it's a spectrum how low they are. But if it's significantly low, then yes, they're not gonna fight viral infections as well. That's absolutely right.
okay.
But if it's just a little lower, then hopefully it's not a problem because there's other parts of the immune system that can compensate for them. And so hopefully they won't get sick. But yeah, it could be. Mhm.
Okay. So then when we step back just a little bit and go a little bit upstream, because you said like the molecular mimicry, right? When it's grabbing something, what's happening in the sense that these complements suddenly start attacking their own tissue? Like what is going on there and why does that actually happen?
Um, so what happens is it's a carbohydrate pattern that it's recognizing on the virus, and it can start to recognize it on something else. So if you have a connective tissue disease, it might be and you build these immune antigen complexes from your inflammation, and the complement starts to get consumed with that a little bit, and so now it's in the wrong place and it can kind of build up and create pain for you and that the immune system's being used up. Or it also can recognize certain food. And so this is where the lectin system comes in. And so we hear a lot about lectins. At least I had and, people have written books that don't ever eat lectins. They're very dangerous and they're very bad for you. And people are saying lectins are fine. And so, what are lectins? Lectins are these compounds that are on food. And so, certain food have these compounds, and normally they're not a problem at all. So they're on a lot of plant foods actually, and so they're not a problem for people. They eat them, and it's no problem. But when your complement system is a little out of balance and revved up, it can start to recognize the lectins on food instead of just the pattern on the bacteria and viruses. And so now certain people, when their immune system is revved up, if they eat certain foods, such as one example is beans. That's what did it for me pretty much. When I was eating beans, it revved up my immune system and my body recognized those beans and my complement was consumed. And so my immune system stayed active. And when I took that out, it was able to quiet down. It doesn't mean they're bad at all. So most people eat beans and they're actually good. They're considered a longevity food. So people age really well eating beans. But when the immune system is out of whack, there are certain foods that can become like triggers or, where the immune system is now accidentally recognizing it. And so you need to calm the immune system down and hopefully you can repair the gut and the microbiome. And with a calm immune system, you can bring some of those foods back in. That's the plan for it. So, yeah.
Cool. So you had a unique place. Like Chris said, beans are very healthy food. I eat
Mhm.
4 or 5 servings, believe it or
Mhm.
not, probably per day, at least three, definitely. Um, the problem is when you are dealing with an autoimmune disorder and things are just continually revved up and you've done everything else because you've done so many things over the last 14, 15 years to dive into your own illness and heal yourself. You come a long way. So when someone understands it, how do you go about looking for the actual cause? So let's say that blood work looks normal except for the low complement and they're having these strange symptoms. Like, what are those next steps? Like, how do you help someone dive a little bit deeper? They're like, okay, something is definitely going on here. How do we pinpoint the root cause to get better?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things I did differently than I would do now is I did like a targeted approach. And now I do a much more comprehensive approach with people. So the number one thing I would say is if you're stressed, anxious, in a place where you feel out of balance, then your immune system's out of balance. So number one is quieting our mind, quieting our lives, finding peace inside of ourselves. So being stressed about our illness, like that is the type of thing that keeps the immune system revved up. So it's hard to do, but I would start with things like yoga or gentle walks or just getting off of social media and quieting your mind and finding your peace. So that's super important. And so I would always tackle that right at the beginning when you're having these symptoms. And then food wise, I would start with just a general anti inflammatory type diet. And then, because a lot of people get better just with that. Three simple meals, not overeating, don't eat late at night, simple anti inflammatory. I wouldn't go too fancy at the beginning because for many people, you don't need.
Oh no, we lost your sound. Can you hear me? Or maybe it was just, yeah, you want to jump on with your phone, Chris? She's on a different one. Can you guys hear? You guys mention it. And by the way, Offsie, oh, she just jumped off. Let me send her an invitation real quick here. Let me do that. There we go. And Offsie was just saying, fun to listen to the doctor's conversations. You're welcome, Offsie. Thanks for being here. All right, there we go. I think we can hear you now.
You can hear me? Sorry about that.
Yes, that sounds better actually. Um, we were in the middle of saying what we do, right? So you were mentioning food wise being very simple, keeping it stressed down, but tell us a little bit more about the food piece. Like, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, so it would be including, first of all, food should be well chewed. I really like a mix of raw and cooked foods. And everybody's going to be a little bit different. So, doing sort of an anti inflammatory whole food diet, kind of vegetable based with clean protein. So, some people will tolerate the beans. People who don't will find other clean proteins that they do tolerate better. So, that may be a little trial and error, but I would start with your preference, just a simple diet like that. Not eating too late at night. That's a huge thing for calming the immune system down, not eating in a stressful environment. And then anti-inflammatory foods you can add, leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, turmeric root, ginger root, and you can mix that into dishes or put it in dressings or blend it into something. So I would start simple like that. Once you're doing the mind body work part, and then a simple diet, and because a lot of people get better, and you don't need to get extreme. And then if you're not, that's when I would start a more comprehensive elimination diet for a short period, calm the immune system down, and then start to bring the foods back in.
Got it. Okay. So someone is asking, do you know a good anti-inflammatory cookbook you recommend? I would say at least first step would be over at Martin's, Chef Martin Oswald's Substack. That is a fantastic place because one, it's not only anti-inflammatory foods that he's sharing with you, but they make some taste really good, like really good. And then I know both of you and I both have articles on, looking at the rainbow and the anti-inflammatory components of food. So check both of ours out here. But is there a cookbook that you would like to recommend or do you know of?
I don't really have one right now because for me, I just kind of found recipes and from different places. So I don't really have one. But if you have someone that you like or you can try, there's several different types of anti inflammatory. And honestly, I used to obsess like, what's the right way? This person's saying that and this person's saying that. And I don't know that the details of that matter as much as your individual, what you're reacting to. So you can follow diet plan that seems to work for you. But yeah,
There,
chef a great
Chef
place to start.
Martin. Yeah, Chef Martin Oswald. Someone's asking me to put the name in the messaging center here. So I'm going to send it. Hopefully you guys get it. I've not done this before. So, um, but yeah, so it's Martin is fantastic. There we go. How do I get out of that? There we go. I have no idea I can't see you now, Chris, but oh well, here we are.
And
Um, it keeps wanting me to, there. Oh my goodness. Okay, you guys, I'm just gonna just ignore all this. So anyway, moving on. So as far as so now we got stress, we talked about, food. What are some other levers that we can pull that potentially help with this?
Mhm. Another big one, 2 more big ones, but sleep is huge, and sleep is a little bit of a catch-22 because when your immune system is revved up, you don't sleep as well. Those cytokines and immune particles that up high in your blood will impair sleep, but for everyone, if we're sleeping better, so just everything you can, working on sleep hygiene, testing why you're not sleeping, if it's sleep apnea or restless legs or nutrient deficiency, whatever, work with someone or on your own to try to figure out and keep working to improve your sleep, I would say. So that is a one because your immune system heals and calms down when you're sleeping. So if you're not sleeping, it's more likely of a chance to be revved up.
Right.
Um, the other big one that I would say is definitely exercise. So, when you're really feeling bad, you may not be able to exercise. So, that's when light stretches or light walking play a role, a huge role, actually. You don't want to do nothing ever. So, you need to at least be doing that, maybe some gentle yoga or Tai Chi or whatever speaks to you, just gentle stretching. And as you feel better, more exercise. And it turns out both cardio and resistance training are important for the immune system. So, you want to start gently. You can use body weight if you're not used to it, come up with a plan, but you want to start incorporating both of those into your workouts. And you can, I know you post things like the Norwegian fours and all these advanced stuff, but for people with an active immune system, walking, riding a bike, moving your body, getting out in nature. For me, I love to hike, so I did that. But any of those movements are great. So doing that type of thing, you can do your own push-ups. You can start against a wall. That's how I started until now I can do regular push-ups, but you can work your way up towards it. So that's going to be another really important one.
Excellent. Yeah. So I'm today is National Kettlebell Day. Kettlebell Day. If you guys can see my little kettlebell back there. Um. Anyway, I'm working on a new thing called the Habit Healers Live Lab, where it will start in February, where it's going to be a series, but we're going to work on different things, and then I'm going to do it with them. So I have issues with my right hip mobility and external rotation, meaning out. Anyway, I've had it for a long time. Would get better if I focus on it, but we're going to work on hip mobility, stability, flexibility, understanding the differences, how the science actually shows that small little, what you call exercise snacks make a big difference, even when they compare them like 30 seconds of a particular type of stretching versus, going to 60 seconds or 3 times a day actually had the equivalent effect, which is really fascinating to think about. So sometimes more is not always better, but something needs to be done. So I think that's the power of what you're saying is that we just need to move our bodies even when we're not well, because you can have a significant loss of strength and all sorts of things happening when you don't move. So that sedentary issue, like if you're working at a desk, get up every half hour, at least every hour, and move for 2 minutes. You'll see improvement in your insulin sensitivity, which also improves inflammation, right? Includes all those things, just keep the body moving. So it's like, oh yeah, I need to work here. This is good.
Mhm.
um, so we have sleep, which I think is definitely a big one because people worry about stuff. They don't feel good. Maybe they're sore, they're pain, that can be an issue. The stress of it, which where less sleep makes more stressful. Then you're not moving because you hurt, but movement may actually improve it, believe it or not. And then, of course, the food, which is people are like, I'm just so tired. I don't have time to cook the good food. But where the problem is, enter into whatever one of those things will work for you. Like, what's the easiest one you can walk into? Is it adding, you know, more veggies to your plate? Is it adding, removing ultra processed food and replacing it with something else? Because just getting started will start the ball rolling for you. So, Chris, what about hydration? I'm curious, have you come across anything around just hydration and drinking enough, water and fluid? Because I feel people just walk around so dehydrated, especially as we get older.
Yeah, absolutely. So your our bodies are made up of water, right? There's water in the cells, and we need water inside our cells in order for DNA to replicate and for our cells to divide and do their function. And so yes, if you're dehydrated, that is a problem and it's going to cause a problem. And the other thing is when you have these joint pains, so anyone with joint pains, you want to drink enough water because it actually does help flush the really small capillaries in your, like in your smallest little, like in your fingers and toes, and it can help flush that out. So if you're getting, it gets more like sludgy a little bit, and especially in those really tiny little vessels. So being hydrated is super important. And I usually recommend about half an ounce per pound to start with for people, and then more or less depending how active. And there is such a thing as overhydrating. And so if you're in a program where you're drinking a ton of water and you're not eating enough salt, you can get pretty severely low sodium in your blood, low electrolytes in your blood, and which can be dangerous actually. And so while we want you to be hydrated, and it's super important, especially for people eating low salt diets, you do have to be careful. There's a balance between fluids and sodium and electrolytes. So I would keep an eye on that too.
And I would also say it could be also how quickly you're drinking the water as well, right? So some people chug down a lot of water, one that causes you to pee a little bit more
Right.
often.
Okay.
There's something about the rate of intake of fluid. But, also it can have a compounding effect on lowering your sodium, which can cause you all sorts of issues. We don't want to do that. And if you have heart failure or kidney disease, you may be on a restricted fluid diet. And of course, this is just advice in general. It's not something that you need to take over the advice of your physician if they're giving you a different reason. There's a reason they're telling you that. So that being said, is there any other final things that we'd like to share before we're done for the day?
Yeah, so people with that come in to see me with weird complaints, joint pains, fatigue, rashes, things that just aren't getting better, we can't figure out. I always start by doing a comprehensive nutrient panel on them. Um, but sometimes you get these weird symptoms because your blood sugar is spiking, or sometimes you're getting it because you're deficient in zinc, omega 3s, or vitamin D. Like these things matter. And, or maybe you're not methylating, you're eating tons of leafy greens, but you're not methylating because you've got a genetic deficiency. So it is definitely worth checking because that stuff we can correct relatively easily. And for me, when I corrected my own abnormalities, which were plentiful, made a huge difference. Like right there, I was like, boom, oh my gosh. So it's worth checking and getting those numbers and improving it. So that's one of the first places I start with everybody.
Which is excellent, which gets me right back to you guys. If you guys would love to see Dr. Chris, like I always do, reach out to Dr. Chris. She's accepting patients. You're licensed in 23 states. Yep.
Right.
All right. I'll eventually be able to just rattle them off. 23 states, or you can just do all 50 like me and say, I'm done. But I'm not accepting new patients, but I send everyone over to see Dr. Chris Miller at chrismillermd.com, guys. Can't get easier than that. chrismillermd.com. So thank you, Chris, for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for talking about this. Because you guys, I went to Lori before I posted this post and I said, is this too detailed? Because most people won't care, but I think it's important for people who have symptoms to know that there's ways to look deeper, there's answers, and there's ways to figure it out. So hopefully you guys got some benefit from that.
And Tisha's asking, are you licensed in Massachusetts?
I'm not yet, but I am actually working on Massachusetts.
Okay. That's a good one, actually, to get. It takes that actually was the one state that took me the longest. It almost took 8 months. And it was, I mean, I have a clean slate, clean, no problem. It was literally, they were so slow. But 8 months for Massachusetts. I'm like, really?
Yes, I hopefully mine won't take that long, but I don't know. But I am working on that right now.
But
So we have that soon.
yeah. Well, if you need a good doctor also in person north of Boston, just look for a Dr. Emily Marbus. That is my daughter. She's a family medicine doctor. And she's pretty phenomenal, way smarter than me. So, all right, Dad. Thank you. And Chris, thanks for joining us again today. This was great. And I will be posting this, guys, later as soon as the video gets done doing its fancy thing, and I'll put it out as a post. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
me.
Bye.
Bye.